Welcome to Will It Zombie, and I want to talk about a single thing you can do in the zombie apocalypse that will combine both providing food for yourself and combating raiders. And no, I'm not talking about building a thorny hedge out of orange trees and wild roses, although that would work surprisingly well. I'm talking about growing potatoes. Now, I know that you're thinking, while potatoes are absolutely delicious, what the heck does this have to do with protecting yourself from raiders? But there is an ancient method to this madness. There is actually a fantastic book that I highly recommend if you've never read called The Art of Not Being Governed. And it makes an observation of certain peoples who grew certain foods to eat. And one of the hardest types of people to govern were people who grew root crops as their primary form of food. You see, if I grow a grain crop like corn or wheat or rice, then whenever I harvest at the end of the year, I have to store it somewhere, like in a silo or in baskets or in a root cellar or whatever. Which means whenever a raiding party or a government comes around and wants to take some of my food, they can literally just go in, steal my baskets, raid my silo. Here's the thing about potatoes and other root crops. You don't store them in a silo, you store them in the ground. After the plant dies back for the winter, you just leave them in the ground and you dig them up as you need them. The ground is your silo. Which means unless they came with shovels and forks to actually dig up your potatoes, which in general they're not going to, and it's also a very time-consuming process, they can't easily steal your winter stores. So regardless of who is coming to steal your food, it's much harder to steal your food if your food is still in the ground. That is why people who grow potatoes are harder to govern. And zombie apocalypse survivors who grow potatoes are harder to raid. Not to mention, potatoes are just a fantastic food source. Sweet potatoes, turnips, all sorts of other root crops also fall into this category. What are some other problems that you're going to encounter in the zombie apocalypse that you'd like to hear some unconventional solutions to?